What's up, guys? Barry Gaming here, back with some more Auto Heroes, and today, well, we're going to be talking about crowd control and transcendence heroes you should pick, because I've been, I'm on Reddit every day, I'm on Discord every day, I see the conversations players are having, I see new players still talking about the Jahra method of going through, building Jahra, but in reality, that's not really a great strategy for newer players. That's a strategy for players who were more established, but weren't spenders in the olden days. The Jahra method did work, and we're going to discuss why it doesn't really work, and if you do want to go for a CC method, what you should be doing instead. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Hit that subscribe button. We only need like 100 more subscribers for our next big giveaway. Let's get going. When it came to crowd control, this was the end-all be-all character. Ever since even Cores of Origin came out, this was actually a broken core when it first came out. It was giving a much higher chance to CC enemies, which was absolutely cool, but it was since fixed, and it was still pretty decent. Now, of course, we know Jahra's bread and butter is her Star Stream active skill. Has a pretty high chance to CC the enemy whenever she uses her active. On top of that, when you get some sublimation added into the active skill, there's actually a range between 40 and 60 HP that you can apply both Petrify Rock Lock and Freeze Cold Chill. And on top of that, the more energy she has, the higher the chance that she's going to try to affect them with CC an additional time. So if your energy is 150 or higher, which is hard to tell because, the energy bar only goes to 100, but the game actually keeps track of energy well past that. So if you ever wonder why you hit someone like an energy drain ability, it like drains 30 energy, but they're still at 100 energy, that's why. There's actually hidden energy that you simply can't see. And I wish there was a way that they could show that. But like I said, their active here can get an additional time, which is really, really huge if she has a ton of energy. Now, a way that it helps her to get more energy is Void Infusion. Whenever an ally releases their active skill, increases itself 25 energy and gains a layer focus, which is really important because each layer increases her control precision and control immunity offset. Those are really big. There are some other nodes in here, like, you can get an additional layer. You start the battle with layers of focus. All those things are good. And then even her noble Core of Origin is pretty solid because whenever allies release active skills, there's a chance to restore them energy and a 30% chance to give an extra energy with a 15% chance to CC. Same thing with when they use basic attack, another type of CC that can happen. Doesn't happen all that often because it is a very low chance, but this was the bread and butter of the old days because, let's talk about this. How do you get active skill off? Well, either number one, you have to be the team going first, which is perfectly fine up through a certain point in the Void campaign. Usually around here is where your team is going to eventually be outsped by the enemy team. And if the enemy team is doing too much damage, like something like this, you're going to run into some big issues because the only way you're going to get crowd control off is if you are going first. In this situation, if your Jahra is dying before your team even gets to go, that is a huge downside of Jahra, and that's why at a certain point in Void campaign, it's much better switching to a Lord of Fear Aspen setup just because she simply can't live through the onslaught that's coming your way, and there's nothing in her kit that lets her CC unless some heroes on your team are faster, but even then, it's not really reliable. So what are your options now? Well, instead of going for a Star Wing Jahra, you know what I'm about to say, don't you? Yeah, you knew what we were going to talk about as the next hero. Therapist of Blood Betty. Now, the difference is when you went for a Star Wing Jahra account, she was your main householder. She was where you put all your power into. She carried your account while still having some other heroes. The kind of counter side of this is going for Therapist of Blood Betty as your main hero isn't necessary. You can go the traditional route of Lord of Fear Aspen, and now it's just even better having Therapist of Blood Betty. Why? Well, I think you probably know already, but we're going to talk about it just in case you're someone who hasn't seen all of our Betty videos. It comes down to her Scarlet Therapy, mainly her Superfluous Ablation, her passive skill that basically says if she has 100 energy, she will trigger her active skill, which is called Scarlet Therapy. Very, very strong. Now, it doesn't do nearly as much damage. Like, just for example, if you just have an E5 version of this hero with Unbending Will, that's kind of all you need. because the damage portion is not what you want. It's the active skill that has a very high chance of CCing the enemy. On top of that, if you do go for a core, you don't need to go for a noble core on her. You only need a primary 1-star core, because even at 1 star, this core is actually pretty solid. If we come on over here, go down the list, go to the 1-star, you can see here, essentially, if any, after you use Scarlet Therapy, whether it's the passive skill or the actual active going off, which technically you can get both off in the same exact round, which makes it so strong, it has a chance to reduce the enemy's the enemy's energy if they're already twined, and then if they're not twined, there's a 25% chance to twine them for 2 rounds. Now again, 25 isn't huge. You see it does go up to 35 here. It goes up to 50 here. And then if you have a whole team of these, it goes up to 75. Some of you guys were asking, how do you get Core Liberation 8? I can actually show you in combat here. If we go into here and we check this out, you can see how we have a level 3 plus 5. That's because all of our other 5 heroes also have a plus 3 noble core. That's how that typically works out, in case you ever wondered why that was. But again, the big highlight here is the fact that you don't actually need her to go first. And if you're in combat where the enemy is just completely outspeeding your team, here's what happens. You'll notice there's a little thing at the end here that says, at the beginning of each battle, or when self is in the battle as a substitute, this cannot be triggered immediately. So essentially what that means is if you run her with an energy artifact, you start the battle with 100 energy, that does not trigger Scarlet Therapy. But what happens is, if you guys didn't know, the other ways you get energy in game is taking a hit gives you 10 energy, taking a critical hit gives you 20 energy. So there's other ways to get energy besides using a basic attack, or getting like a Demon Bell energy feed, Elusive Mirror energy feed, any of those things. Just getting hit gives you energy. And how this ability works is if you are already at 100 energy and you take your first hit in that round, technically your energy goes from 100 to 110, and then it actually does trigger this passive skill, which triggers the active skill, which is what we really want, because that gives us a very high chance to CC the enemy. Now, the downside of that is you can't run something like, if we actually go back to our hero itself, you can't actually run something like a Rui Scepter, because you're going to start at 50 energy. Now, if you can survive enough hits to hit like maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe get a crit in there, something like that, or your team can kind of survive the enemy onslaught, what you can do is try to get like a high chance of CC that might stick for the next round with a Rui Scepter. However, going for something that has energy and maybe is a little tanky, like a Demon Bell or this, even a Snow Heart works. Heck, even a Magic Source works, because yes, it's not great. Actually, do we have any in here? We do. Energy, skill damage, it's not optimal, but the most important part is getting yourself up to max energy. A lot of people are running Demon Bells. Like I said, Snowheart is also an option, especially if you're worried about control, but it does give HP and energy. As far as the tankiest one out of all these go, I mean, you can even run Melodic Strings if you want to build her for damage. You definitely don't need to, but that is why everybody is transitioning away from Jahra and to Therapist Blood Betty. If you are in the mid game and you're going for a Jahra account, it's not really advised at this point. It was a decent strategy still up to a certain point, but now it just really is not. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys need any advice on your accounts if you're in this similar situation. And I'll see you guys next time.